Hello, customer success friends who just joined us. My name is still Dmitry, and I am CSM evangelist. We does not know I am created a movement, customer success management community in video format. Today we are starting a series of teleconferences, customer success management walk across a continents. In the cycle, special guests will share their insight experience how customer success management is applied in their countries. Today we have a friend of the Telegram Being Successful community, Kirill. Kirill is a project manager, CSM advisor in the Czech Republic. Kirill, it's a great to have you here today. To things of, could you tell us a bit about yourself and your background in the realm of customer success and advocacy?
Sure, yeah, thank you for inviting me today. I'm Kirill. I'm based in Czech Republic, in Prague. I'm living here for more than 10 years now. My main background is in B2B, and with one-liner, I usually call myself like a business developer with a product mindset. I work a lot with the startups. Right now, I work as a growth lead in a company called Apify. I have their branded t-shirt today. I'm also a growth mentor in few platforms. I'm growth consultant and advisor to a few startups and accelerator programs. But I also have an experience with the corporate. I worked in Oracle, covering account management function there as well. So that is my business background. In terms of customer success, I am during the last 7 years or so fully or partially covering customer success, mainly for B2B, but also the corp. I'm a big fan of jobs to be done approach and framework that I apply to most of the things that I do. During the call today, I'm mainly gonna talk about the customer success for the startups, to be more precise, B2B, early stage startups, and that is what I've spent a lot of time with.
Okay, thank you very much. Your perspective of the important value realization and talent engagement is insightful. Can you provide same concept example of how you've successfully engaged a customer and to encourage them along this journey?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll give like a bit broader overview first of my approach when it comes to the kind of customer advocacy and customer success. In every project, startup, or like consultation that I'm engaged with, I try to get to the stage when we can build the relationship with the customer and help them do their job. That's kind of the high level objective that is there. To get that job done, first I need to understand like what's happening in the company internally, to understand like what is it we know, what is it we don't know, and try to find like what is the main barrier, like constraint, what is the bottleneck that is stopping us from doing what customer success is supposed to do in the startup. In early stage startups, actually it's not like, from my perspective and my experience, customer advocacy is not very trendy, and the main reason is like advocacy comes usually in the latest stages of the customer journey, like when the customer is onboarded, activated, happy, retained, grown, and then turns at some point into the advocate. For the early stage startups, when there is no product market fit, or like the segment is not validated, value proposition is not validated, and plus for the B2B segment, usually it's like long feedback loop, meaning you have to wait for like a year to, or maybe even more, to see like the outcome of your the outcome of your value proposition, for example, or of your like main segmentation. So that is like the high level. In terms of the specific example that you asked, one of the good examples that I usually share here, one of my recent companies, like projects I worked with, the main constraint that I figured out was the onboarding part, and it was taking like 3 months on average to get customer on board. It was still B2B heavy enterprise product, but still like 3 months for no any obvious reason. Like when I digged deeper into the subject, we realized that the main constraint there was that it was poor qualification from the sales people, and they were not understanding enough what actually customer wants. And only after like signing the contract, then we were like, okay, so let's sit down and do like a proper qualification. Plus usually after those conversations, after the contract was signed and customer spoke with the customer success, the customer realized that they wanted something else, not what was initially agreed with salespeople. And so we had to change the contract, and then there was always something super custom for the development team and engineering team. And basically what I did there, together with the team, we redesigned the onboarding process and like the sales to CSM handover process, so that we ended up onboarding customer like in 1 week. So it was improved from like 3 months to 1 week, because we figured out where was the main constraints. And again, it was like poor qualification of the salespeople, unnecessarily legal iterations, custom solutions, and we united it all, made templates, made it like a more unified approach for a specific segment. Yeah, that helped us to actually do the onboarding much faster.
Okay, we have a lot of common. In my practice, one of the key skills in building relationships with clients has been the skill of involvement. This is how I and many CSMs in Russia manage not only to retain clients, but also jointly develop my company's business. I believe this skill is also easily scalable into leasing skills, which means that all our QBRs are more effective. It's clear that your approach is comprehensive and tailored to custom needs. As you mentioned, the customer journey is ever evolving. How do you ensure that the advocacy journey remaining aligned with changing customer preference and needs?
Good question. The way I look at it is applying basically the jobs to be done approach here, and the way I do it and like recommend customer success people to do is by understanding the context, motivation, and the outcome for a specific segment. One of the examples, another like maybe good and bad examples at the same time. I was working with another company, and a funny thing that I came across, I was invited to the sales calls before the client signed the deal, signed the contract. And during that call, I asked the customer, like, Okay, so like I initially I was supposed to just say hi to the potential customer and like wave and like, hey, I will be your customer success manager, so let's get to know each other early. But during the conversation, I asked them like, okay, so what is the outcome that you're gonna like that you are after? And while customer was saying something, the salesperson was like, hey, Kirill, don't ask customer about like the outcome. And after the meeting, I asked the sales like, hey, like what was that? Like why don't you want me to ask about the outcome? And they were like, well, if you ask them about the outcome and they don't know yet the outcome, we will not sell. And that was like a mind-blowing problem for me at that stage, that if like, yeah, the salespeople, they're doing they might be doing good job with selling things, but the customer journey is not finishing when they sign the papers and when they pay. So it's all about seeing the big picture, the comprehensive journey, and like the knowing the outcome of the customer at the very early stage is what is like super important for the customer success, and not only for the customer success manager, like as like individual, but for the entire company. And this is my probably recommendation to like companies who are taking customer success seriously, is to never stop understanding the customer outcomes, because they are changing, they are evolving now with the power of AI and like new products every day, new solutions, new patterns. The behavior of the customer is changing, and their outcomes are changing too. And it's not only about like another potential value that customer success brings to the early stage startups. It's not only about like making the retention or like having the good NPS or like expanding in the customer, but also by identifying the segment much better, much stronger, by again by understanding their outcomes and like the context and the motivation. Um, and why it is helpful for the early stage startups is because if you know the outcomes that the customers are after, you can change your product roadmap and planning so that you can actually pick up connected outcomes. So for example, if you are selling data, this data that your customers are buying, they're buying it for some reason. And by understanding like what do they want to achieve with this data, this information might help you build more integrations or like build more analysis of this data, so that they don't have to do it in-house. And jobs to be done is like quite heavy thing that we will not have time today to talk about. But if we take just one small piece of it, like understanding what jobs your customer is trying to do, and help them do that job. Like if the customer first, and it sounds like simple on a high level, but if you go to the details, first customer has to compare your solution versus competitive solution. So as a customer success, you can help your company like to grow and generate more business by making the comparison matrix. Then when the customer is for example, in a heavy B2B situation, there is a buyer and there is a user, which are two different personas inside the company. And the buyer, for example, has to convince the user to use it, or like the buyer has to convince the finance team to buy, the CFO to get the budget, or like whatever else internal stakeholders that they have to communicate with. And by doing this stakeholder analysis, like who what, when, and why. Like this is the most important. Like inside of the company is connected to your solution, then you can personalize not only the journey of your potential advocate, but also of each persona inside of that company. So that's like in some, especially like conference business, this is now very common. When you are trying to get a ticket as an individual, you want to get a ticket for some corporate event, and those companies, they tell you like, okay, here is the template email or message that you can send to your manager for your conference, asking like for the money to your conference. Yes, you might say this is not a typical customer success thing to do, but like that's what I'm saying. Like this is not about the customer success individual work, but like as a function, as if everybody in the company would be thinking about like what is the outcome and what is the success means to a specific customer, and like what do they need to do to get to that success, and then helping them at every stage. So the bottom line of the question of the answer for this question is like never ending and like continuous discovery of the outcomes of your user segments, which is part of jobs to be done.
Wow, it's beautiful skills. It's very powerful. Your emphasis on knowing your clients need a critical in a rapidly changing landscape. That is a holistic approach indeed. Could you share your perspective on how these advocacy skills balancing the goal of advocating interests and ensuring clients achieve their desired outcomes?
Yeah, that's another good question. I don't have a specific and like out of the box answer that would fit all of the situations, but my general concept here is like start with the end goal in mind. What I want to say is like, what is it you as a company or like as a function owner, like whatever, like me, for example, now I'm called officially like growth lead, but I have customer success, customer support in my department, and I have teams for that. And I'm owning the customer success function. And whoever is owning that function in the company, what is it they want to achieve? At some stages, and I think like especially for the early stage startups, it might be actually not so much about the success of the customer, because you as a like small startup, you might have like very limited resources to make every customer happy, and your objective would be to identify the top segments that you can make happy, or like that takes you the kind of the most valuable segments that are generating most of the revenue for you and require less of your attention. Like with what type of customers you can scale, and what kind of customers like segments, unfortunately, you have to like pay more attention. Pay less attention, which is not ideal, and maybe like also mind-blowing for some perfectionists, customer success people. But again, like customer success does not exist in the vacuum, right? You are part of the company, and company has its own goals. And as part of those goals, you have to understand like how can you connect what is it you do with the company goals. And for the early stage startups, it's about finding those segments, like polishing the product and validating the value proposition, validating the segment, maybe capturing some other ideas how you can improve the product and stuff. For the later on companies, or maybe in corporates actually, for the corporates, they already know their their customer segments. They know the value proposition. They have the product. They have like zillion of people to build the product and stuff. But still there are some business objectives that company has, like the QBRs. It's especially for like publicly traded company, like those with the IPO. It's all about the QBRs, the being as accurate as possible with your estimates and with your forecasts. And then you have to balance between the relationship that you have with the customer and kind of how much you can push your customer to upsell or like to buy more from you to get to your goal. So then there is like this corporate mindset comes into play. Still, it's about like making the customer happy and stuff, but it's less. Yeah, I think it's just different paradigm. It's very hard to consider to compare. And somewhere in the middle, like this is the startup that I'm working with right now, the Apify. We are at the stage when we know our customer segment, we know the value proposition, and we want to basically we want to grow. And okay, I have this kind of growth mindset. We want to grow the NRR metric. So we have, again, like we started with a goal in mind, with the end goal in mind, which is to increase the NRR, net revenue retention, or like net dollar retention. And this is another like good, let's say, balance between, I think what you're asking, between balancing what we need as a company and what customer needs to get kind of to get to the success. And yeah, I think it depends on the stage of the company, on the objectives of the company, and yeah, and like the skills of the customer success function owner to connect these objectives and the customers.
That was a great story. We saw how CSM works in Czech startups. As we wrap up, what advice would you offer to businesses looking to implement and manage a customer advocacy program effectively? Thank you, Kirill, for sharing your experience with us, and thanks you to our wonderful viewers for joining us in this interesting dialogue. We invite each of you to become part of being successful. Where business meet, work and life, and success becomes a shared aspiration. So hit the like button, subscribe, and channel, and join us. Kirill, maybe you can give us something.
Yeah, thank you again for inviting me today. I'm doing also my job into kind of advocating the customer advocacy, we can say. And yeah, the bottom line, like the wrap up from my talk today, and kind of as a recommendation to whoever will be listening, is to do basically two things. One is like identify the main constraint and like what is actually, number one is like identify the business objective that you have, that you give to the customer success function, and then try to identify the main constraint and like the growth lever, so-called, that is gonna kind of help you achieve that, basically. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Until next time, keep being successful. Bye bye.